Zim Shutdown, streets empty, trade fair flops, and combis confused. With comedy, political satire, and facts, Trevor Noah meets Zim reality. What's happening, Zimbabwe, Zambia? This is your people's anchor, Takunda Mabika.
Right, you're tuning in for a deep dive, and today we're looking at something pretty intense unfolding in Zimbabwe, a nationwide shutdown.
Yeah, it's quite a situation. We've been digging into a YouTube commentary by Takunda Mabika that gives a real boots-on-the-ground feel.
And there was one line in there that just jumped out at me about the quiet. So quiet you can hear your own poverty echo back to you.
Powerful imagery. It really sets the scene.
It does. So this deep dive, it's focused on this Geza national shutdown, using Mabika's video as our main source, right?
What's striking is this atmosphere. It's not loud protests. It's this stillness, this tension. That's what we want to explore.
Okay. So goal is break down what the video shows, separate observation from, maybe speculation, and figure out why this feels significant.
Understand the key pieces of what's being reported.
Okay, so first things first. This shutdown, is it actually, happening? Or is it more online chatter? Sometimes it's hard to tell.
Good question. The video seems pretty clear on that. Mabika reports it's very much real.
Not just hashtags and posts, then.
Tangible stuff. He describes empty streets, the combis, those mini bus taxis, essential transport there just parked, idle.
Right.
Shops closed up tight. It's a visible lack of activity, not just, digital noise.
Okay. And it's not just what's not happening, but the vibe from the few people who are out. The video mentions that too.
Yeah, definitely. There's this sense of caution. People walking carefully, looking around a lot.
Like they're being watched.
Yeah, that's the impression. A real feeling of unease in the air.
And that quote, the one from the teacher.
I'm not at work, I'm just passing by my job emotionally. That says so much, doesn't it?
It really does. About the disruption, the emotional weight of it all. No, something else that caught my eye in the commentary was the Zimbabwe International Trade Fair, the ZITF. That's normally a pretty big deal.
Usually bustling. It's a major event in Bulawayo for business, for showcasing the country.
But not this time,
Drastically different, based on the report. The video calls it the Zim Ghost Town Expo 2025.
Wow. Ghost Town Expo.
Empty stands, hardly any visitors. A stark contrast to the usual buzz.
And there was that story about the South African delegate.
Apparently they asked if this was some kind of rehearsal they were seeing. And the response was something like, no, this is the shutdown version.
Oof. That really tells you how bad the impact is on just normal business networking.
It's hard to have trade and interaction when the basic flow of life is just stopped.
Makes sense. If people can't get around, if everything's closed, commerce just grinds to a halt. Okay, so the video also talks about civil servants, government workers. They seem to be in a really tough spot.
Yeah, that's a key point. The pressure on them to actually go to work.
But it's not necessarily because they want to break the shutdown.
Seems not. The video suggests it's driven by fear. Fear of losing their jobs, losing their income, can't pay rent,
Basic survival needs.
There's even mention of an ultimatum going around. Go to work or go to the streets permanently.
That is incredibly harsh, a terrible choice.
It really is. And that nurse's comment that was shared? Something along the lines of, I support the shutdown, but if I lose this job, I'll have to shut down myself.
Wow. That just perfectly captures the dilemma, doesn't it? Supporting the idea, but needing the job.
Puts a very human face on the pressures people are under.
Yeah. Now, the video also brings up comparisons to Zimbabwe's recent history, specifically 2017.
Right, the military intervention then, which led to the change in presidency. People are apparently drawing parallels.
Interesting. Is there a heavy military presence reported now?
The video suggests, not overtly, not like in 2017, but it emphasizes this tension in the air, a feeling.
So it's more subtle this time, but the comparison is still being made.
It leads people to ask, is this the start of something big again? Another major political shift?
That underlying question is history repeating or rhyming.
Something like that. That sense of unease, of potential change.
Okay. Now, the commentary mentions a figure known as GZA. Who's that and what's their reported role?
GZA is described as someone quite prominent who put out a YouTube video.
Another video?
Claiming to have intelligence leaks from inside the security forces.
Oh, What kind of
Warnings,
intelligence?
apparently, telling people to stay home because there might be shootouts.
Shootouts. That sounds serious. How are people reacting to that
It's
claim?
mixed, according to the source. Some people believe it, take it very seriously. Others are skeptical.
So it adds another layer of uncertainty. Maybe
Definitely.
fear.
It's this unverified info swirling around, adding to the anxiety.
Right. And speaking of information, or lack of it, what about the government? President Mnangagwa, any official word
That's another
mentioned?
striking point, the silence. The video highlights the lack of public statements from the president.
Really,
Apparently not.
nothing.
It even says people are checking his WhatsApp status for any kind of update.
Checking WhatsApp, that shows a real information vacuum,
It really
doesn't
does.
it?
And in Zimbabwean politics, that kind of silence, it can mean different things. Well,
Like what?
could be planning, strategy behind the scenes, could be inaction, or just waiting, seeing how things play out before making a move.
So the silence itself is significant, but hard to interpret.
Exactly.
For sure.
It leaves room for a lot of speculation.
Okay. And what about the established opposition, the CCC, other groups? Are they leading this or
The video
commenting?
notes a lack of visible leadership or public statements from them, actually.
Why might that be? Any ideas
A few
offered?
possibilities are floated. Maybe a strategic waiting, seeing which way the wind blows. Maybe there are people who are also just staying home observing the shutdown.
Or waiting for international eyes on the
That's another
situation.
potential reason mentioned. It suggests the traditional opposition isn't perhaps driving this particular event, or at least not openly yet.
Interesting. So we have this tense quiet on the streets in cities like Harar, Gweru, Mesvingo. Even vendors being careful
Right, that
about pricing.
ground level reality. Very subdued, very cautious.
But then the video contrasts that with what's happening
Yeah, that's
online.
a fascinating contrast. Online, it's active. People are sharing memes about the shutdown, prayers, even TikTok dances related to it.
TikTok dances.
Apparently so.
Seriously.
It seems like a way people are coping, expressing themselves, maybe finding some solidarity or dark humor online while things are so tense offline.
A very modern way to process a difficult situation,
It
I
seems that
suppose.
way. A digital release valve, maybe?
Now, despite all the fear, the threats, the uncertainty, the video seems to end on a slightly more hopeful note. Viewing the shutdown itself
Yes,
is
it
meaningful.
does frame it that way. That despite everything, the fact that the shutdown is happening shows awareness, a potential desire for change among ordinary Zimbabweans.
Like a sign that people aren't just passively accepting
Exactly.
things.
There's this idea captured in the quote, "This country might take time, but it never sleeps forever."
Never sleeps forever. That implies an underlying resilience, a potential
I think that's the
energy
sense
there.
it conveys.
Yeah.
That even if change is slow or difficult, the potential is always there.
Okay, so let's try and pull this together. Based on our deep dive into this commentary, we're seeing a real shutdown. It's got tangible effects, empty streets, closed businesses, palpable
Right.
tension.
And echoes of the past, particularly 2017, raising questions about bigger political shifts.
Plus, these complicating factors like the mysterious figure GZA and their
Mixed
warnings.
with the notable silence from the government and seemingly from the main opposition parties, too.
Creating this really uncertain environment, and then you have the contrast between the tense reality on the ground and this sort of coping mechanism playing
Yeah,
out
the
online.
memes, the dances, alongside the fear.
But underneath it all, the video suggests this shutdown is a sign of awareness, maybe a collective seeking of something different, even amidst all the
Well put.
pressures.
And that leads perfectly into the final question the video leaves us with. Is
Which
it a
is?
shutdown, slowdown, or a dramatic pause?
Shutdown, slowdown, or dramatic pause. That really captures the ambiguity, doesn't it? We don't know the
Exactly.
final
It sums
act.
up the uncertainty of the moment perfectly.
Yeah. So while we don't have the definitive answer right now, what this deep dive into the source seems to show is that something is definitely moving or shifting in
Agreed.
Zimbabwe.
And the commentary rightly points out, even events that seem contained, quiet shutdowns like this, can end up having really significant political consequences down the line.
Absolutely. It's definitely a situation that, as you watch it unfold, highlights those complex dynamics, something to keep a close eye on.